Hello and welcome to a short video summary of the Hisense H65M7000 Ultra HD 4K TV. You can read the full in-depth review via the link in the description or by clicking the info button at the top right of the screen. The M7000 is one of the higher end Hisense models. It uses edge LED lighting, but it includes local dimming. It has a 65-inch screen size and it retails for around £1,299, although if you look about you can probably find better deals than that. Now it's a very well designed television. It's actually a very attractive TV. It has a beautiful brushed metal silver bezel around the screen itself. This same effect is used on the outer edge and also along the back panel. And despite its price point, it's an extremely well made television. It's heavy, it's solid, nicely engineered. Really impressive from Hisense. It sits on a large wide stand, which is very fashionable these days. Of course, it does mean you need a wide surface to put it on, so it needs to be at least 122 centimeters wide. However, you can also, of course, wall mount the TV. Now, all the connections are at the rear, and there's actually a very good selection of connections. You've got 4 HDMI inputs. Now, 2 of those support HDCP 2.2, so those are HDMI 2.0A inputs, and there's 2 that are basically HDMI 1.4. You also have 3 USB ports and all the usual legacy connections, as well as built-in Wi-Fi. The TV comes with a remote control, and it's a really nicely designed remote control. It's simple in terms of its layout, but comfortable to hold, easy to use with one hand, and everything you need is there, sensibly laid out, very intuitive to use. I really like this remote control. In terms of the actual platform itself, it uses a fairly simplified smart system, but simple is often the best approach. You don't want it to be too complicated, you don't want too much choice. So basically you have all the key apps like Amazon and Netflix and BBC iPlayer, and then you can go down through the system, through the tiles, selecting different things like inputs and also the media player and recommendations and things like that. So it's simple but effective and it gets the job done. In terms of other features, it has a really good sound system. The TV itself is pretty slim, only 2 centimeters at the top, but it's much deeper at the bottom, about 6 centimeters. There's some pretty big speakers built into there, and it does sound very good. In game mode, we measured the input lag on the M7000 at 38 milliseconds, which should be fast enough for all but the most fanatical gamers. However, there's no separate game mode for HDR gaming. You have to basically use the basic HDR mode, and that measured 54 milliseconds. So when it comes to HDR gaming, the lag's going to be a little bit higher, but for most gaming, the lag is pretty good. In terms of its actual picture performance, this TV is obviously Ultra HD 4K. It also supports HDR, high dynamic range, HDR10 specifically, and it also has a wider color gamut. Now, in terms of the standard dynamic range content, we measured the Grayscale, and it wasn't too bad out of the box. There were some errors in there. It was a little bit too much red and not enough blue, but there is a 2 and a 10-point white balance control, which means that you can fairly easily calibrate this and get a nice, even Grayscale with a smooth transition from black to white with equal amounts of red, green, and blue. Excellent. The only issue is the gamma, which is a bit variable. We found it difficult to actually lock it down to a smooth 2.4 gamma, which was our target. There was a little bit of, not exactly clipping, but it was a little bit high when it came to the higher end of the scale. So that was unfortunate, but there is no separate gamma control and no way of really adjusting that. So that's the only issue I really had in terms of the white balance slash grayscale slash gamma performance of this TV. In terms of the color performance, the out of the box performance was pretty good again. There was some errors in there because of the white balance, because of the grayscale. But once we adjusted the white balance, that actually brought the color gamut in very accurately. There were still a few minor errors, and there is a color management system on this TV that you can use to adjust those colors. So we did adjust it. There was still a little bit of a hue error in red, but overall the color tracking was actually very good. In terms of HDR performance, now this is not the best HDR TV you're going to find, but then for this price point we wouldn't really expect it. In terms of its peak brightness, you're only going to get just under 300 nits, so it's not that bright. But what is interesting is that the color accuracy was actually very good. It had a decent wide color gamut, and it actually tracked Rec 2020 pretty well, and it also tracked DCI P3 within Rec 2020 very well. So overall, it's not the brightest, but it is pretty accurate in terms of colors. And we found when we were testing it that the HDR performance looked really good. Yes, it didn't have quite the impressive, impactful peak highlights of some of the better HDR TVs, but considering the price point, it delivered a really good HDR performance. There was obviously the detail from the 4K, and there was the wider color gamut, and there was some sense of high dynamic range as well. So that was really good. In terms of its standard dynamic range performance, it was a really good TV, really impressive. Considering the price point and considering that Hisense haven't been in the market that long in this country, this is a really impressive model from them. Lovely picture, really even backlight, which is excellent to see. The local dimming isn't the most aggressive, it doesn't really do that much, But you do certainly get deep blacks, a nice even backlight, good colour accuracy with sound dynamic range content with Rec 709. The motion handling was very good, and overall we really couldn't fault it as a solid television, and it delivers in every aspect you expect it to. It sounds good, it looks good, the picture quality is excellent, it can do HDR, it can do 4K, it's got a nice simple smart platform, good controls, plenty of connections, and it's really well made. And from that basis alone, given the price point, we are more than happy to award the Hisense H65M7000 an AV Forum's Best Buy Award. Thanks for watching.